Hey there, welcome to Microdose U. I am Dr. Dave, and in today's episode, you requested this. I'm going to be sharing with you dosage levels of psilocybin magic mushrooms. What does it feel like if you take a certain number of grams or milligrams? Let's get right into it. I've got a little chart right here, which I am going to fill out in real time as I'm speaking to you. So the very first dosage is actually a dose that nobody really talks about, and that's going to be the submicrodose. So a microdose, which I'll share with you in a little bit, well, I'll tell you in advance, a microdose is anywhere from 50 milligrams to about zero point 0.3 grams. But anything below that, I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. I'm going to call it a submicrodose. So it's anything less than 50 milligrams, and that's a submicrodose. Here's my chart right here. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're not watching it on YouTube, if you're just listening to the audio, you can still follow along. It's very, very easy. But anything less than 50 milligrams, and again, if you're converting that into grams, that's 0.05 grams. I really want you to know how to convert back and forth between grams and milligrams and vice versa. It's very, very important. So less than 50 milligrams or less than 0.05 grams is such a small dose that you never really hear me talking about this. I generally don't recommend it, but the only instance where I would recommend it is if somebody tells me they're so sensitive to medication and they take a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of something, it affects them more than it would affect most people. So if you're in that category and if you just want to kind of dip your toes in the water and see what it feels like with the smallest, then yeah, you can take a sub microdose of, let's say, 30 milligrams, 20 milligrams. But I do want to tell you something. It's such a tiny dose. Probably you're not going to feel anything at all, and probably it's not going to do anything therapeutic for you. So, having said that, let's start with the real chart here. Let's start with the microdose. Now, a microdose is, if I can find my pen here, yeah, microdose is, fill this in as I'm talking to you. I'm calling a microdose anything from 0.05 grams, which is 50 milligrams, to zero point 0.3 grams. And what is 0.3 grams? If you are talking about 0.3 grams, how many milligrams is that? You really should know this. It would be 300 milligrams. This is the range of a microdose, and this is called, my podcast here is called Microdose U for a reason, because that's kind of my specialty. And I've used microdoses for over the past 4 years. Microdoses in the range of 50 milligrams to zero point 0.3 or 300 milligrams. And they've been really, really effective for me. And the good thing about microdosing is that it's extremely effective for taking care of, reversing, treating anxiety, depression, other mental health issues such as PTSD, oftentimes OCD, ADD, ADHD, and more and more and more. Now, remember, as I'm telling you, this is treating these, I want to make it very clear that this show is not offering medical advice. I'm pretty much just sharing my story and what I've been through, and also what people I've talked to and people that I've helped along the way have gone through. And the microdose is such a sweet spot because you can feel a little different, but you can totally go about your day and you can do anything that you would do because it's either sub-perceptual or very barely perceptual. So again, you can totally work, you can drive, you can look after your kids, you can do whatever you want on a microdose. That's how small it is, but it's still a large enough dose to begin to rewire your brain and get you out of the mode of the anxiety and the depression and the other issues. And also microdosing has helped me become more aware of spirituality. It's helped me become more creative. It's helped me become sometimes even a better skier. Sometimes I microdose and actually go up to the ski mountain and ski or hike. And it's something that's helped me so much over the past 4+ years that I am a tremendous believer in microdosing magic mushrooms or microdosing psilocybin. Again, these values I'm giving you, these milligrams and grams, these are values of dried, ground up magic mushrooms. Please keep that in mind. It's very important. These are not dosages of actual psilocybin, which would probably be about 1/10 of what I'm telling you. But you don't have to remember that at all because we pretty much talk in terms of the weight of the actual dried, ground up magic mushrooms. Now, the next category is what I will call a mini dose. So, a mini dose is right in here, it's zero point 0.3 grams upwards of 1 gram. So, about 300 milligrams, which is zero point 0.3 grams, up to about 1 gram, which is the mini dose. And I'm going to go ahead, if you're watching it on YouTube, I'm going to hold this up, completing this right here. Now, a mini dose, how are you going to feel on a mini dose? Well, you're going to definitely feel something. You're going to feel, you might even equate that to feeling a little bit high on cannabis. You're going to feel generally very good. You're going to want to get out and do things. I'll give you an example. A while back, I did a mini dose. I think it was probably about 0.5 grams, so it was about 500 milligrams. I was in San Francisco. I was with a friend. We were in Chinatown. We did a little mini dose and we were walking around and we were just kind of checking out some of the little shops or whatever. And it was just a really cool feeling. I mean, again, I guess you could say I was a little bit high, but I was noticing everything and everything just felt so good that I was doing. And the evening, we wound up in a really cool Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, San Francisco. And I don't really even know how long we were there. It might have been a couple hours or so, but it was probably one of the greatest meals I've ever had in my life because, again, it was a mini dose of magic mushrooms. You could still be totally functional. I would not recommend driving. I would not recommend operating machinery. I would not recommend anything that you need responsibility for, such as looking after kids or going to your job. But if you've got the time and you're just kind of curious, a mini dose is a really, really good dose and it's fun. And again, I do believe it's therapeutic. I'm not here to party with mushrooms. I don't go to parties and take mushrooms. I really use magic mushrooms or have used magic mushrooms for therapeutic and mental health reasons. And I really do believe the mini dose has its place there as well. The next dose I'm going to talk to you about is called the museum dose. And I'm going to write this down. The museum dose is anywhere from probably about 1 gram to 2 grams. Museum dose, which you can see right here. We're gradually filling this thing out right here with all the dosage levels. The museum dose is definitely stronger than a mini dose. You still can be functional. And the reason they call it a museum dose is because you can actually walk around a museum and observe. And at this point, you're going to probably have possibly some closed eye visuals, most likely maybe not open eye visuals, but closed eye visuals. So when you close your eyes, you might see some patterns and some fractals and things like that. It's wonderful for walking around museums, walking out in nature, even taking a hike. You're still going to be, as I said, you're still going to be functional, but you're absolutely going to feel something stronger and vibrant colors. You're going to just notice things in a stronger way than you normally would if you were not dosing. That's a museum dose. The next dose up is actually called a moderate dose. And a moderate dose is anywhere from 2 to 3.5 grams. Again, I'm filling this out as we're talking. Moderate dose here. And so we're slowly beginning to fill out this entire triangle of dosages. Now, a moderate dose is getting to the point where you want to be somewhere like in your home, in a comfortable room, maybe on a sofa, in a bed, just laying down, listening to music, because you're going to be maybe semi-functional or partially non-functional. You're not going to want to be out in public, most likely. You're just going to want to be relaxing and listen to music with headphones, maybe in a dark, comfortable room, and possibly with somebody that can be by your side as a trip sitter, and just to make sure you're safe. It's a really, really good dose for becoming very introspective, understanding what's going on in your life. It's very good for healing trauma. Again, I'm not a big large dose person, but I have done some larger doses. And especially if I'm going to be traveling internationally and I know I'm not going to be able to microdose for quite some time, I will take a little bit of a larger dose and it could hold me over for quite some time so I don't feel like I need to, be microdosing a couple times a week or whatever. But it's good for that. And I think it's a really good and safe way to uh, get your feet wet with a much larger dose without having necessarily to go to one of those tremendous heroic type doses. I'll give you a little example. Quite some time ago, I went to a yoga class, and it was a yoga and a sound bath combined. And I went ahead and dosed about 2 grams before the class, thinking that I'm going to be go very, very deep. And my wife was with me because, of course, I'm not going to take the responsibility of driving. There's no way I recommend that. No way I would ever try that because it's much too large of a dose. But I want to share with you, everybody's different and everybody's body reacts differently to this medicine. And even the same person, one day they could take a certain dose and then maybe a few weeks later take the same dose and feel totally, totally different. So what I'm sharing with you are guidelines, but they're not carved in stone and they always change because I did about 2 grams for this yoga class and I was laying there doing yoga and then the sound bath and seemingly I was totally fine and I didn't go nearly as deep as I wanted to. But then when I got home, hours later, I felt it as much deeper, but still very, very functional. And this was about 2 grams. So again, you got to be careful. It does depend on the strain, but I'm talking about maybe when I'm giving these dosages, I'm talking about the typical, probably regular level of like a golden teacher type strain, something like that. If you're dealing with albino, penis envy, or something like that, it could be 1.5 to almost 2 times as strong. So you have to be very careful and take that into consideration when I'm giving you these doses. The next dose up would be a mega dose, and that's somewhere in the range of 3.5 grams to 5 grams, and that's a mega dose. And that's a very large dose. And when you're taking a mega dose, that's going to be something that you're absolutely going to be inside, in your house, in your room, comfortable setting. Remember, set and setting are very, very important. You want to make sure you're going to be in a good frame of mind. You're going to want to have somebody there by your side just to keep you safe. That's all. But you're going to be, uh, again, it depends on the person. It depends on how you feel when you're doing this. But you're going to be maybe um, barely functional, if functional at all. You just want to be able to lay back, immerse yourself in the whole situation with a really good pair of headphones and music and maybe a nice blanket on you. But you've got to kind of give in to this whole thing. You might experience either partial ego dissolution or ego dissolution, which means you're there, you're lying there, but you don't even understand that it's you. You're just kind of like almost in space. And again, it could be a very, very good experience, but you have to be prepared for this. The next level is a heroic dose, and that heroic dose is 5 grams or more. And we're going to call that heroic. I don't know why they call it heroic because I don't necessarily think that somebody that does this heroic dose is necessarily a hero. A hero is somebody necessarily a hero because they do 5 grams or more. I'm not so sure I would say that, but what to expect if you do over 5 grams? You're going to be not functional, most likely. You're going to need to be just in your own comfortable space, lying down most likely, or on a very comfortable sofa. Maybe eye shades, maybe a blanket on you. Definitely a trip sitter with you if you're not as experienced, and just roll with it and just immerse yourself in the situation. And you're going to most likely experience ego dissolution, which again means your ego. And when I say ego, I mean the awareness of being yourself, the awareness that I am Dr. David Maddow. It just dissolves away and you're just lying there in space almost, just letting whatever happens, just letting it happen. And again, this could be for several hours like that. But so you have to be prepared when you take a large dose like that, either a mega dose or a heroic dose or more. You need to be prepared to put the time in and don't rush through it and just sit back and let it happen and learn from your experience. Again, I'm going to hold this chart up again so you can take a screenshot of it if you like. But again, this is pretty much what I'm talking about as far as the dosage levels, anywhere from a sub-microdose, which again, I don't really recommend because I don't think a sub-microdose does much, all the way up to a heroic dose, which I'm going to go ahead and try to get that name changed because again, I don't think there's anything as far as you're not necessarily a hero if you do that large of a dose. And in many instances, including myself, there's no reason to really do it because microdosing and some occasional larger doses, but not heroic doses, have helped me and changed my life in such an incredible way. I don't feel compelled to do like an extra large dose. I just don't feel that it's necessary for me. But again, that's just me. I hope this information really helps you. Again, it's long overdue. I did this type of episode years ago, but it's long overdue now. We want to go ahead and update everything we have, and I hope this helps you. And now let's get into some questions and answers that you have asked me either on YouTube, by email, by text message, or some other way. Contact form on my website, microdoseu.com. But you've gotten these questions to me, and I want to go ahead and answer them right now. Okay, so before we take questions and answers from you guys, a couple things really quickly. Always check the show notes of each podcast episode. I've got some really important links if you want to just learn a little bit more about microdosing. A lot of stuff going on, show notes, and also my website, microdoseu.com. A lot there. And remember, we do offer some coaching, some one-on-one coaching. If you just don't want to do this by yourself and want to learn more how to, how to fix your life and how to feel better in your personal life every single day, we do offer some one-on-one coaching. It's all either in the show notes or on my website, microdoseu.com. And remember, anything I talk about is not medical advice. Just sharing my story, sharing stories of other people that we've helped. And if it makes you feel better, and it should, then it's a win-win for sure. And also remember, if you're using this plant medicine, do it in an area where it is legal or at least decriminalized. Just be safe. I want you to be safe. I want you to do the right thing. And I want to welcome 3 brand new Patreon members that just signed up over on our Patreon platform. We're having a lot of fun over there, by the way. And we're using now, we've got an auxiliary, a little platform there. We're using the WhatsApp application in addition to the Patreon, which really makes it much better. We can have conversations going 24/7 with Patreon members, like-minded people that just want answers and want them quickly from people that really know what's going on. So it's a really cool family over there on Patreon. I want to welcome Tammy. I want to welcome Joe and Jan for joining Patreon very, very recently. Thanks so much, you guys, for being there. We're having a lot of fun, and we're going to keep the fun going. Now, questions and answers that you've sent in. Let's go ahead and take the first one. This one is from Facebook, from Jason St. Pierre. And Jason says, what's a good starting dose for microdosing, and what's the best schedule? Well, it's interesting, Jason. Just so happens this episode was on dosing, so kind of already talked a little bit about that. But in my mind, the best starting dose, and again, everybody's different. This is the thing. So everybody has to kind of adapt to what they think is best for them or what really works best for them. And sometimes it does take a little bit of experimentation. But in my mind, the best starting dose for somebody that wants to go ahead and take care of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all that, is somewhere between 100 milligrams and 200 milligrams. That's the best starting dose. And again, if we convert that into grams, do you know what that is, Jason, or anybody else that's listening or watching? So I said 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams, which would be 0.1 gram to 0.2 grams. And the best schedule is one that works for you. I used to be really rigid about this, but I would say, generally speaking, about 3 days on. So in other words, you take your dose for 3 days in a row, and then take 1 to 2 days off, and then go again 3 days in a row, and then take 1 to 2 days off. And again, you can experiment with this. It's not like a pharmaceutical where it has to be so exact and precise. It's a plant medicine. And again, there's a lot of leeway here. I used to be pretty rigid when I first started, but I realized, hey, you can kind of do what you want. But the most important thing is that when you start doing, the microdosing is that you stick to it. The biggest problem that I see are people that start it, they try it for a day or two, they don't feel different, and they just give up. Or they even try for a week or two, then they just kind of get out of it and give up. I promise you that's not going to work. So the most important thing is being consistent. Whatever your dosing schedule is, being consistent, sticking to it. But yes, somewhere between 0.1, 0.2 grams, 3 days on and a day or two off, and then 3 days on and repeat, rinse and repeat. Okay, next question from DM Woodward. How can microdosing help post-COVID symptoms? That's a really interesting question, and maybe the first time I've received that type of question, or that exact question. It's a really good one because, a lot of people that have had COVID are now experiencing something called long COVID or post-COVID symptoms. And it's really difficult. And sometimes they persist for weeks, months, and sometimes even years, or maybe permanently. So can microdosing help with post-COVID symptoms? I say absolutely yes. There's a very, 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 very good chance. And why? Why does microdosing help? Well, number one, it reduces inflammation, and almost everything, almost so many medical issues that are going on in our bodies, especially post-COVID, are related to some type of inflammation going on in our body. So yes, psilocybin is definitely an anti-inflammatory. So it helps reduce inflammation. It helps improve mood, which again, mood is the psychological aspect of COVID and post-COVID is pretty major. So it improves your mood, improves your cognitive function. A lot of people with post-COVID have brain fog, and it will absolutely help with that, especially if you're using lion's mane. And I've talked about that a lot in the past. Lion's mane in conjunction with microdosing magic mushrooms, it will increase energy, so it will eliminate or mitigate chronic fatigue. It helps reconnect with your body. You just kind of understand your body a lot more than you ever have. And using psilocybin has helped me learn things about my body, whether it's COVID, post-COVID, or something else, some medical thing going on. It's helped me learn so much about my body. I think I've done episodes on this and talked to you about this, but it's been nothing short of like amazing for me. So I've learned so much, and it's helped me with so much. So DM, I hope that answer helps you right there. Matilda K. Can microdosing help treat OCD symptoms? I'm going to say, again, everybody's different, and this is not medical advice, but I'm going to say absolutely yes. In many cases, microdosing magic mushrooms can help with OCD symptoms, or even eliminate it or eradicate it. And the reason is because one of the things, it helps in loop disruption, if that makes any sense. OCD is kind of like you're caught in this loop. You're caught in this never-ending loop that just keeps going, going, going. So since psychedelics can help rewire the brain, it helps kind of break up that loop that is going, that you just can't stop. So that's one thing. It helps with serotonin regulation, especially the receptor which is involved in OCD, which happens to be let me make sure I get this right, the 5-HT2A. Now, I don't expect you to remember that, but the 5-HT2A receptor, which again, psilocybin binds to that receptor, and that receptor is involved in OCD. Also, psilocybin can help with pattern reset and also anxiety reduction. And let's face it, there's a lot of anxiety that's involved in OCD. People that have OCD tend to have anxiety, tend to be anxious. I've had my bouts with that. Luckily, it's never been anything terrible with OCD, but I definitely have. If it's a spectrum, I definitely have it on some level for sure. And I really do believe that microdosing psilocybin has helped me kind of get out of that pattern, that anxiety reduction, help mitigate the OCD. So I think that's all the questions we have today, or that's all we can actually get to today, I should say. I hope this helps. I hope this episode in its entirety has helped because, again, a lot of people ask about dosage levels of magic mushrooms. Again, I'm going to go ahead and hold this little chart up one more time so you can possibly grab a little screenshot if you want. And I want to thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate you more than you would ever realize. I think we're finished for today. So we're going to say sign form. And also, I say this at the end of every episode, I do love you. I hope you come back to the next episode. We have a brand new episode every Wednesday. A brand new episode comes out. And I am Dr. Dave. You've been listening to or watching Microdose U. Thank you so much for being with me.